The dreamer on the track. The sun rose over the quiet town of Willow Creek, painting the morning sky in soft gold. On the empty running track, Ethan Cole, 19 years old, was already running his fifth lap. His shoes hit the ground rhythmically. Thump, 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 like the heartbeat of determination. He wasn't running for fitness. He was running for a dream, to wear his country's flag on his chest and win gold at the National Marathon Championship. His coach, Mr. Dawson, watched from the bleachers, stopwatch in hand. "You're improving, kid," he said, smiling. "But remember, running isn't just about your legs, it's about your heart." Ethan grinned, sweat dripping down his face. "I know, coach, my heart's stronger than my legs." And in that moment, he believed it. He ran not only for glory, but for his late father, who had once told him, "If you ever fall, son, don't stay down too long. The world only rewards those who rise again." The fall. It was the regional qualifier race, the last step before nationals. Crowds filled the stands chanting names. Ethan stood at the starting line, hands trembling with nervous excitement. The gun fired, bang! Runners launched forward like arrows. For the first 10 kilometers, Ethan stayed near the lead pack. He felt invincible. Every stride pushed him closer to his dream. But as he turned a sharp corner, a loose stone rolled under his foot. He slipped. His body twisted violently, crashing onto the ground. Pain shot through his leg, sharp, unbearable. He tried to stand. He couldn't. The crowd gasped. The other runners kept going. The world blurred as tears filled his eyes. Paramedics rushed over, lifting him gently. The doctor's voice later in the hospital was calm, almost emotionless. "Ethan, your leg bone is fractured badly. You'll need surgery. Running again might not be possible." Ethan's world shattered. The track, the dream, everything turned into silence. The dark days. Weeks passed. Ethan lay in bed staring at the ceiling, surrounded by trophies that now felt meaningless. Messages from teammates came in. "Get well soon." But nothing reached him. Every morning he would hear kids running outside his window. Their laughter felt like knives. His coach visited one day with a pair of worn-out running shoes. "These were your father's," Mr. Dawson said softly. "He ran in these during his hardest race. He didn't win that day, but he finished. You can too, I'm in your own way." Ethan didn't respond. He just stared at the shoes. But that night, when everyone slept, he placed them beside his bed, and for the first time since the accident, he cried. Not from pain, but from wanting to try again. The first step back. Rehabilitation was slow. Every stretch felt like fire. Every attempt to walk was like climbing a mountain barefoot. "Don't push too hard," the therapist warned. But Ethan pushed anyway. He fell. He cried. He screamed. But he never stopped. Days turned into months. He could finally walk again, slowly, with a limp. One morning, he stood before the old running track, the same one he had fallen on. He took a deep breath and started walking along the outer lane. Step pain, step pain, step pain. But then he heard his father's words echoing in his heart. "Don't stay down too long." And suddenly walking turned into jogging. Jogging turned into running. And with every painful stride, Ethan felt alive again. The new beginning. A year later, Ethan returned to the world of running, not as a competitor yet, but as an assistant coach for local kids. He shared his story with them, not as tragedy, but as proof of hope. "Coach Ethan," a little boy asked, "will you ever run a race again?" Ethan smiled. "I will. Not to win, but to finish." He trained secretly at dawn, strengthening his leg, rebuilding his endurance. Every sunrise became a symbol, a promise that he hadn't given up. The Marathon of Redemption. 3 years after the accident, Ethan registered for the Willow Creek Charity Marathon, not an official championship, but something that mattered more. The entry number on his chest read 1437, his father's old number. The race began. Crowds cheered, music blasted, and Ethan's heart raced. He wasn't the fastest anymore, but that didn't matter. Halfway through the course, pain returned to his leg. His old injury screamed at him to stop. But he smiled through the pain. Because now running wasn't about winning, it was about finishing what he started. At the final kilometer, a drizzle began to fall. He could barely feel his legs, but he could see the finish line ahead, blurred by rain and tears. He whispered to himself, "I fell once. But I never stopped. And as he crossed the line, the crowd erupted. Not because he was first, but because he proved that spirit beats circumstance. The legacy, news spread quickly. Inspiring comeback injured runner, finishes marathon after 3 years of recovery. Ethan was invited to schools and events to share his journey. He always said the same thing. The strongest runners aren't the ones who never fall. They're the ones who fall, break, bleed, and still choose to rise. His story inspired countless others. Soldiers in recovery, kids with disabilities, people who lost hope, and one day, as he stood on that same track with hundreds of new runners, he realized something powerful. He hadn't lost his dream. He had simply found a deeper purpose, to teach others to run through pain, to rise through failure, to live through struggle. The eternal race. Years later, long after his competitive days ended, Ethan still woke before sunrise and ran a lap around the track every morning. Not for medals, not for recognition, but because every step reminded him of the boy who fell and the man who refused to stay down. One morning, a young runner approached him and asked, "Coach, what if I fall during the race?" Ethan smiled gently. "Then you get up," he said, "because the race isn't over until you decide to stop running." Epilogue: The heart that kept running. When Ethan looked back on his life, he realized that his biggest fall had given him the greatest lesson, that failure isn't the end of the road, but the start of a new journey. He once chased after trophies. Now he chased after growth. He once wanted to be the fastest. Now he wanted to be the strongest inside. And so, the boy who once lay broken on the ground became a symbol of what it means to never stop running, even when the world says you can't. Because in life, it's not the runner who falls that defines the story. It's the runner who gets up and keeps going.